Hello, welcome. The American teacher Marc Fogel has been greeted by President Trump at the White House after being freed by Russia. Now, we're going to show you some images of that, but just to warn you beforehand, they do include many flashing images. Mr Fogel had been detained in Russia since 2021. He met President Trump shortly after landing in the US as part of that exchange deal between the two countries, although further details of that have not been released. Mr Fogel was given a 14-year sentence for illegal cannabis possession after he was found carrying medical marijuana he'd been prescribed in the United States. Well, President Trump said that another person would be released on Wednesday, but didn't say who it would be. Well, our correspondent Helena Humphrey has been following this story from Washington.
Draped in the Stars and Stripes American flag, Marc Fogel appeared elated as he touched down at Joint Base Andrews just outside of Washington, D.C. And from there it was swiftly on to the White House, where he was greeted by President Donald Trump on a snowy South lawn. And inside one of the diplomatic reception rooms, Marc Fogel described what he had endured in a Russian prison for the past 3.5 years as difficult, challenging, tough, but said that he didn't want to go into more details at the moment, but instead paid tribute to Donald Trump and his efforts to secure his release.
I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now. And I want you to know that I am not a hero in this at all. And President Trump is a hero.
Marc Fogel also paid tribute to his 95-year-old mother, someone he said had energetically campaigned for his freedom, including holding a backstage meeting with Donald Trump during his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, before that assassination attempt on Donald Trump, because he said that he believed and his mother believed that the Biden administration hadn't been doing enough to secure his freedom. It's worth keeping in mind that Marc Fogel was detained by Russian authorities in 2021. It wasn't until 2024 that the Biden administration declared his detention as wrongful. Take a listen to what President Trump had to say about those efforts from Marc Fogel's mother.
He's got a great mother, and when I saw the mother at a rally, she said, if you win, will you get my son out? And I promised. She's 95 years old. And I said, we'll get him out, and we got him out pretty quickly.
Another development that we had coming out of that press conference is that Donald Trump also said what a number of US officials had been saying throughout the course of the day, that another American hostage would be released on Wednesday without giving further details as to whom or from where. But the bigger picture in all of this and the questions being raised is, what does this mean for US ties and relations with Russia? Donald Trump was asked about what he had given in exchange for the release of Marc Fogel. He simply replied, not much. We haven't yet heard further details from the Kremlin, but Donald Trump did say that he believed that this could be a step towards the end of Russia's war on Ukraine. And of course, Ukraine and President Zelensky and Ukrainians will be watching this very closely, because the concern is, on the part of the Ukrainians, that with Donald Trump's desire to see a swift end to that war, they could face increased pressure to make territorial concessions that they don't want to make.
Yeah, and we'll hear what Volodymyr Zelensky's been saying just in a moment. But first, our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, has been explaining more about those events that led to this surprise release of Marc Fogel by the Kremlin.
Marc Fogel had taught history at an international school here. He'd been arrested in 2021 at Moscow airport. He was found to be in possession of 17 grams of marijuana. He said doctors had prescribed that. His punishment was 14-year prison sentence. Suddenly today, Donald Trump's Middle East envoy flies to Moscow to secure Marc Fogel's release, manages to do so, and then later Donald Trump's national security advisor issues a statement, quite an interesting one, saying this, that the Trump administration had negotiated an exchange that serves as a show of good faith from the Russians and a sign we are moving in the right direction to end the war in Ukraine. Two interesting things about that. This talk about an exchange. We have no details at all for whom or for what Marc Fogel was exchanged. And it's interesting that the release of a US prisoner and the war in Ukraine are mentioned in the same paragraph. Amid all the talk now of possible peace talks on Ukraine, an imminent US peace plan, a sign of a US-Russia thaw, this kind of language about a show of good faith from the Russians and moving in the right direction to end the war, I think in Kiev they'll be quite wary of this and wondering whether moving in the right direction means moving in the right direction for Moscow.